Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host Rashid. Hey, it seems like we're going to have a little problem with the background, so I'm going to take the background off because I don't want any pausing or any problems with that. So give me 1 second, okay? Because I'm tired of all of the stuff that I go through just to try to get this show going. So hold on 1 second. Let me remove the virtual background. None. We'll go back to a green screen. That way we can do it in real time, okay? Again, thank you all for joining me on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on YouTube or social media. This is your platform for liberation, education, and empowerment. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, your humble brother, Rashid. Now let's get into it. Again, since we missed yesterday, I want to draw your attention back to something. When I was talking to you all on the previous show, and I was telling you that there are some respected pundits, seem like they cannot, I don't care how much the evidence points towards Israel being the aggressor, seems like they can never fully acknowledge it. They'll talk around it, and then they'll say, well, there's not enough evidence, so I'm going to hold my opinion to this. But it's never a lot of evidence pointing to like Hezbollah or to Hamas or Iran. Like right now, they're saying Iran has caused this, and this is only innuendo and hearsay, and yet they don't have any problems whatsoever openly stating that. But they have a problem with admitting that Israel bombed a hospital, killing over 1,000 people. And what's so funny about this is one of the pundits, he harped on the instigation of violence when Hamas went into Palestine, which they call Israel, but that's Palestine. So in reality, Hamas was not in violation of their territory. This was territory that was taken from them and their ancestors, right? For this so-called greater Israel regime. Now, I want you to understand, I'm not going to stand up here and beat down one side or the other. I want you to understand that. But what I will do is tell the truth. And sometimes when you're telling the truth, it looks as though you're picking on somebody or that you have a grievance or you have a hatred for another. And in reality, it's not that. It's that you have a hatred for slanted news and illogical and irrational judgments that are being made, and the total ignorance that they show on a historical level of who instigated this, what led up to the instigation, and why the violence was so intense. They want to just throw all of that out the window and say Hamas did this, Hamas did that. They don't talk about the what led up to it, about the occupation, the humiliation and the humanization that the Palestinians have faced for 40 or 50 or 60 years, right? They don't want to acknowledge any of that. They wanted just to say that it's unexcusable. There's no way to justify Hamas killing this and Hamas killing that. And yet they barely utter a word about the daily killings and illegal arrests of teenage boys and girls that are 11 and 10 years old, and the beating of mothers, and the pelting and the shooting of protesters in the West Bank and in Gaza. They just ignore that blatantly. And they'll say the killing, well, what about this killing? Well, we can say, and let's take, for instance, okay? Let's just take one of the major pundits. And listen to me good. He's a well-respected pundit, and I actually enjoy his platform. I actually, 70, 80% of what he says, I agree with. But it seems like, you can't, when it comes to Israel and the Palestinian question, they pussyfoot and dance around that constantly. And it seems like it takes so much to pull out something of them. And when they condemn, if they eventually condemn it, it's a half-hearted condemnation, which makes you believe that they have a vested interest in keeping the narrative going, or they are outright biased and are trying to lead you in believing that they are just on both sides. And this is not the case. This is not the case. So there was a lot of talk about the killing of civilians when Hamas went into occupied Palestine, which is called Israel. And we're going to put that to bed, okay? We are going to put this thing about innocent civilians being massacred, right? We're going to put this to bed right here, right now. Because one of the main things that these pundits don't tell you, one of the main things that the news organizations, which are so slanted toward Israel, don't tell you, is that outside of children, there were no civilians slaughtered. What you mean? We saw the thing. Okay. Let me give you something. Let's go to something real quick. I want to prove to you what I'm saying, okay? You know how I do it. All right. So, all right. Check this out. According to the dictionary, and this should shut up all of the pundits who are talking about there's no justification for all of the mass casualties of the civilians that were killed by Hamas, okay? And listen to me good. I'm not taking a side except for the side of truth. And I'm only addressing the things that most people just ignore, omit, or willfully and purposely screw up and misrepresent. So we have them saying that when the Hamas went into occupied Palestine, which is Israel, they started killing civilians, right? Let's go to the definition of what a civilian is, okay? According to the dictionary, right? The word civilian is a noun. It means a person not in the armed forces or the police force, non-military person, non-combatant, ordinary citizen, private citizen, of denoting or relating to a person not belonging to the armed services or police. All right, now, that definition disqualifies everything that they say because, remember, in occupied Palestine or Israel, every man and woman must become a member of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. They must become that. Before they have I think a 2 to 3 year obligation for that. So you have a society that has been trained in military and police tactics. So even if Hamas went in there and they killed some of these people cannot truly be classified as civilians according to the definition. Now, the killing of children, man, that's outrageous, you know, I like this stuff. But we're going to address what the news and the alternative media continues to harp on, but we're going to undercut their standing because we understand definitions. And for us to take their line of thinking, we have to now ignore, push out, omit, forget, and censor the fact that the population of occupied Palestine, which is Israel, are all militant combatants. Why? Because the definition of a civilian, according to Google and Oxford, is a person not in the armed forces or the police force. Non-military person, non-combatant, ordinary citizen. So listen to me. They emphasize ordinary and private citizen. An ordinary citizen, in most cases, has not been or will not be a partaker in the military or the police forces at any given time of their lives. But the civil society of Israel, that is incumbent upon all citizens. So these are not considered ordinary citizens because they are trained in warfare. So that in itself sweeps away one of the main stumbling blocks that everybody continues to harp on, that these people were ordinary citizens, and they were not. They had ties to the police force and they had ties to the military. So that removes the tag of citizen in the manner of which they're speaking, okay? according to the dictionary. All right, matter of fact, you're from Missouri. I'm going to show you. Okay, give me a second. Let me pull this up real quick for you. I want you to see, because I don't want anybody to think that I am misleading anyone, okay? Let's go up here. Share. Do you see on the screen? As a matter of fact, I'm going to make it bigger for you so that you'll understand that I am telling you the truth. Let's go to this, and let's go to this, and let's make this. Look on my screen. Read it for yourself. Read it for yourself. Okay? So that does away with all of this stuff that most of your alternative media and your mainstream media have been pushing. Now, remember when these people were the people that were killed in the first few days of the fighting in Israel, because they were Israeli, there was outrage, condemnation, right? Fear and loathing, threats and demands, right? And then we have this bombing of a hospital. And Israel tried to get the heat off of them by saying, oh, this was Islamic jihad. And Russia and China and all of these other nations laughed at the half-hearted effort of the so-called most intelligent and most resourceful intelligence services in Israel with this half-hearted make of intercepted telephone communications, which came at a very convenient time, right? Telephone communications, when the people are admitting on the telephone that this and this happened and they were responsible for it. Come on, guys, stop this. Stop this. I mean, again, we were born at night, but just not last night. So I told you, we're from Missouri here. We like to prove and we like to show you, okay? We don't just like to talk and bump our gums without any tangible proof. Because today's world, we need to be able to knock the brains out of falsehood. So now, as we push that aside and we look at the bombing of the hospital, these are areas that Israel and the IDF know very well. How can that be a mistake? They realized that after bombing it. And so that's why they came up with this half-hearted excuse that it was Islamic jihad that did it. And some other so-called Islamic radical groups, right? Remember what I told you on the other show? Every time, it never fails. I told you this on one of the shows. It never fails. Whenever the U.S. or the Western world is in trouble and they need a boogeyman or an enemy to justify what they did or to put themselves in the light of, I would never do something like that, they come up with another so-called Islamic terrorist group or Islamic fanatic group or Islamic extremist group. All the time. It never fails. And right on cue, just like I told you guys. So why isn't, whether you want to believe it or not, and they have presented multiple videos, when the Israeli side presented videos of people being killed, and they say that this was civilians, even though we have the definition of civilians, and now we know that they were not civilians. There was all this outrage. But why is everybody saying we will wait for an investigation when a hospital that has been working for years, and the hospital didn't pick up legs, get legs, and pick up the hospital and move to some unknown location? The Israelis knew exactly where the hospital was. They knew exactly who were being treated there. And they bombed that hospital, killing over, right now, the tally is still growing, but they say over 1,000 people. Why isn't the mainstream, well, we know why the mainstream isn't in condemnation of this. But why aren't your favorite shows quickly picking this up and condemning Israel by this? They can quickly condemn Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iraqi Hezbollah, anybody. But when it comes to Israel, it always gets more than the benefit of the doubt. Why is that? And you're telling me that's not biasness? You're telling me that you are not invested in Israel and the perception of Israel when you continue to give them the benefit of the doubt? Why didn't they? And let's just say Israel is right and they didn't bomb the hospital. Well, we know for a fact that a few days ago they bombed a convoy of civilians after Israel told them to leave. And this is coming from the International Red Cross, the International Red Crescent, and all of these other agencies, that a convoy of civilians were leaving northern Gaza, and the Israeli military destroyed the convoy after telling them to leave. This was purposely and willfully targeting civilians. These are war crimes and crimes against humanity, everybody. This is why your so-called favorite shows are not talking about this extensively, because then that would put them at odds with Israel, and that would make them to piss instead of always sitting on the potty when it comes to Israel. They don't like that. I see the chat is jumping. I'll be with you in a second in the chat. Let me finish my thoughts on this. So I want you for one second, let's switch places for a minute. If Hezbollah or Hamas would have told Israeli civilians to leave a certain area, and then they would have stopped shooting and everything and allowed for the convoys escorted by the International Red Cross, the International Red Crescent, and other organizations. And then as the convoys load up and start exiting the battlefield scene, Hezbollah, Hamas, Syria, Iran, Lebanon, Iraq would have bombed the convoy. Do you think that these same alternative media outlets would have been so slow to react, slow to lay blame, slow to condemn? You have to ask yourself, why? Because this just happened. Matter of fact, let's see something. Give me a second real quick. Give me a second. Let's see. Give me 1 second, everybody. I like to pull up facts. Let me go right here real quick. See if they've taken it down yet. They're talking about the Gazans right now on every page in the Eastern newspaper, but barely saying anything about them. And you can tell that the United States was in on it, because when Joe Biden got there, he said, "Oh, the other guys did this," right? This is what Sleepy Joe says, not acknowledging his hand in it, Britain's hand in it, Europe's hand in it, and Israel's hand in it, right? They are a party to the crimes against humanity and the war crimes that took place. But because these are Muslims and because these people are Palestinians, the West is taking a offhands approach and look the other way. And notice that this happened as Biden starts talking about, we're going to give $100 million. Listen to me good. $100 million to Gaza to help with civilian food and casualties and all of this stuff. And then at the same time announces $100 billion. Not even 1% of what they're going to get to Israel. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy, right? Give me a second. Let me see something. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let's see. Oh, misspelled that one by mistake. Y'all, I'm sorry. All right. Let's see. All right, let's see if we can pull it up here. Give me a second, everybody, and I'll be with you in just a second. I'm trying to see if I can pull this stuff. I have this stuff up in my email because I save all of this stuff, but I'm not going through my email right now. What? Let's see. They moved it. They moved the article. But I'm going to keep this up because there's some on here I want to see. Let me see if I can pull this up on here real quick. Bombs. Let's see. Israel bombs. Convoy. Palestinian convoy. There we go. There we go. All right. So, let me pull something up for you all, okay? Let's see if I see videos of it. I'm not gonna do the video, but I see the videos of it. It says, let's see if I can go to a respected one. Even CNN, now you know this has to be true. Even when CNN has to be forced to pick this up. Let me see what it says right here. I'm just gonna read and pull this up. It says, Israeli military denies striking a convoy in Gaza trying to head south. Now, I want you to understand something. Reuters admitted, and then they walked it back. I got it in my emails. I can pull it up if I had the time. Reuters admitted Israel bombed the convoy. Other Western media revealed that the IDF bombed the convoy. Then Israel waited and then admitted it themselves and said, we apologize, but in no way, shape, or form we were targeting the convoy. How the hell could you not be targeting the convoy when you told them this was the way to escape, this route right here, take this and you'll have safe passage? And they got on the safe passage and you bombed the hell out of civilians, killing dozens of people, mostly women and children. And your mainstream media wipes it out. The so-called big alternative media channel that are against the big machine will not speak on it and refuse to condemn this stuff. They only walk around this. And then at the same time, you have this bombing of a hospital, killing over 1,000 civilians there. And there's no condemnation. You don't see John Kirby crying and lip shivering over that. You don't see that. So how are we dealing with just people, just nations, when nobody can get a fair shake with America, especially concerning Israel? I'm going to tell you how pro-Israel America is and how hypocritical she is. She always screams about Article 5 of the NATO defense pact, right? She always screams about that. I'm going to show you just how critical she is and hypocritical she is. Got my water in the cup right now. Think about this. Turkey, the second largest, second most powerful armed forces of NATO. If you don't believe me, go check it out. Google it. Israel seized a humanitarian convoy that was headed for Gaza maybe about 2 or 3 years ago. Google it. And they killed I think a few Turkish people on there, right? First of all, to seize an international convoy, a human aid convoy, or whatever you want to call it, is against international law, and you could be brought up for war crimes. First of all, let's get that out of the way. Go look it up if you think I'm lying. Second of all, the illegal seizure of citizens of other nations on that convoy in international waters constitute a direct escalation and a declaration of war, not only against those nations whom their citizens were shot at, some who were killed, and some who were taken captive, but this was also a direct act of war on NATO. Did NATO do anything? Nope, because Turkey was leading the convoy. Turkey was leading the convoy. And America started talking about no escalation. Let's talk about these things. Let's do this and let's do that. But this is your Article 5 partner. Your Article 5 partner. What would make you wimp out from invoking Article 5 when your main and your duo, your partner, which is the second most powerful country in NATO, was hit by your protectorate state? And to show you just how more slanted this is, I want to give you an idea of this. So when you look at these mainstream, your favorite channels, all right, these alternative channels, when you look at them, ask them why they're not talking about these things. Now, we know that Turkey was kicked out of the F-35 program for being independent and wanting an independent air defense system. Did you know that Turkey was the only nation in NATO that did not have an independent national air defense system? Did you know that? It was okay for the Western, the Christian, and white nations to all have air defense systems. But Turkey was left at the beck and call of America, Germany, and the West. One of the founding members of NATO did not have a working air defense system. All they had was man pads, right? So they were kicked out of that for asserting their sovereignty. And while asserting their sovereignty, they were penalized after paying billions of dollars into the program. America stripped them and kicked them out, right? Kept the money, refused to give them F-35s, told them they'll give them an upgraded F-16, but guess what happened? Israel, a non-NATO ally, continues to get F-35s. Now you make that make sense. All of the Western world and Europe, even as they bug up against America in some way, they still get F-35s. But the sole Muslim nation was penalized, kicked out of the program. Money was seized, and they have yet to receive one F-35 when Israel has made a request for dozens more that the U.S. taxpayer will have to pay for. That is the hypocritical policy of America. And no mainstream or alternative media outlet talks about this. They don't say anything about this. They dance around these issues because it's uncomfortable for them, because they have a vested monetary and political interest in keeping some of the status quo being the status quo. This is the truth. I'm not embellishing it. I'm not making it up. Google it, Yahoo it, DuckDuckGo it, Bing it, or whatever you may do. Look it up. Okay? Truth is truth. Let me go to the chat real quick, see what's going on in the chat. All right. Let me call out some of the people in the chat. All right. Yes. Flying Crocodile, the first one who was in the chat earlier today. We got David Moss, shout out. We got Holly Horn in the building. We got Joel Bradford in the building. We got, let me scroll down. We got, we got Midi in the building. We have CC Chi in the building. We have oh, this thing is jumping. Okay. So, and it's a few chats that are going on. So, and why is that? I want you to understand why is that? Not just with American policy, but with these alternative media people who have 100, 200, 300, 400,000. And I'm not attacking them, you understand? And I'm not jealous of them, and I'm not knocking their hustle. But when it concerns information, and when it concerns educating the masses, a job that you proclaim to want to do, why do you pussyfoot around these most crucial and critical and vital subjects? Why won't you just call an ace an ace and a spade a spade? People will respect you more. It's not about all the subscribers. Hell, I can talk to one person. If I'm talking truth, I'm fine. And if I don't talk to one, then I'm talking to myself. If it's the truth, Hey, it is what it is. God will talk back to me. It's not all about the aesthetics of having 200,000 or 300,000. What is that when a lot of your talk is meaningless? You've got to ask these people that. Put pressure on them. Make them stand up. If they say that they are reporting the truth and that they're tired of the lies and tired of the system, make them address the most crucial and critical issues that are vital to your livelihood and the preservation of your life, especially in this world that is crashing and burning right before us. Because what we're looking at is America and Israel, NATO and Europe pushing, prying, and directing everybody as they take another step towards war. So today's show is titled Live, Another Step Towards War. So again, matter of fact, let me see something. Let me go into it. When I said that, something just came to my mind. I'm going to play a clip that I've played before that goes right along with what I said, and then when we come back, I'm gonna play one that I haven't played before. And these are short clips. So I want you to just roll along with me and just listen to this, okay? Here we are.
The U.S. has two purposes in occupying the eastern third of Syria completely illegally, of course. One purpose is to deny Syria the ability to undertake reconstruction, because the U.S. is plundering the oil and wheat resources so that Syria doesn't have the money to reconstruct itself after 12 long years of failed U.S. regime change war, which was supported by the U.S. allies, such as, unfortunately, Canada. That's reason one. Reason two is the U.S. officials have openly stated that they're occupying the eastern third of Syria in order to use that occupation as a bargaining chip in the final settlement over the end of the U.S. proxy war in Syria. So the U.S. is in there illegally. They know they're there illegally, but they're staying there because they're using it for a foreign policy goal. And it just shows the utter hypocrisy of the U.S. In condemning Russia for its military presence in Ukraine, while at the same time they're occupying the eastern third of Syria. And we know that the U.S. That the Russians are in Ukraine because the U.S. and NATO provoked them into being into a war in which NATO expanded 800 kilometers eastward, despite a promise made in 1991 to Mr. Gorbachev, and they have provoked the war with Russia because they have pushed their expansion right to the gates of Moscow. So the U.S. is an aggressive empire. It is waging wars around the world or destabilizing countries from Syria to Ukraine to Taiwan to Cuba, because the U.S. has one thing in mind, and that is hegemony. In other words, it seeks to dominate the planet.
So now we've heard that. Now I'm going to read something to you all shortly too that goes along. As a matter of fact, I'm going to read it before I play the second short clip, because remember a while ago I told you that Donald Trump offered Assad a deal and said that the U.S. troops would pull out. He would pull U.S. troops out of Syria, but they had to meet certain conditions, and that was to oust the Iranian troops from Syria and to share oil revenue, a portion of their oil revenue and gas revenue with the United States in perpetuity. Listen to me good. That a certain portion of the sale of Syrian oil and gas would be given to the United States in perpetuity. Remember, I kept telling you guys that? Well, when I was looking for that other article that I just put up on the screen for you all, I found an article that was talking about. That's why I said, hold on, I'm gonna save this one and bring it back to you. So I want you all to look at this, and all the while calling China aggressive, all the while calling Russia a pariah and aggressive, all the while calling Syria a regime, all the while calling Hezbollah extremists and calling Hamas terrorists. What's more terroristic than that? Do you know that's strong arming? You place your military there with guns and warplanes and tanks and all of this stuff, and you hold a gun and a threat to the legitimate government of the people there and tell them that if you want us gone, you're going to have to pay us. And it's not going to be a couple dollars. You're going to have to pay us a portion of all revenues that come from your oil and gas, your wheat and your corn sales. Isn't that what the movies, when those movies that you see these people extorting businesses, poor businesses that are barely making in these little areas, and they go up in there, the corrupt police go in there and tell them, hey, it's payday, you have to give us a portion. And the people were like, well, but we're barely making it. And they'll either set the building on fire, break something, or make it hard for the people. That's what the U.S. is doing. And then they want to point the finger at Iran, Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iraqi Hezbollah, Lebanon, and all. Man, this is absolutely crazy. I'm going to bring this article up. I told you, I come with fire. I don't just talk. Everything I say, I can back up. Everything. So listen. And then sometimes when I'm talking about something else, something that I've told you before pops up so that I can bring it back to your attention. So, boom. We're going to put it on the screen. I'm going to read it from the screen. I keep telling y'all, as they said on that cartoon, you better respect my authority. All right, look at this. You see this up here? Syria spurns U.S. offer to pull out troops as trade for Iran withdrawal report. That comes from a report. Remember I told you that they thought Assad would buckle because the United States said, if you don't, these are the consequences. We'll just take it, we'll occupy it, we'll empower the Kurds, and we'll empower terrorist groups to keep the nation destabilized. But Assad had more testicular fortitude than what they thought. I want you all to remember something, that Assad was never meant to be the leader of Syria. His older brother was supposed to be the leader of Syria, but he was killed in a car accident. Some people say the West killed him so that Assad could ascend to the position of president, because he was brought up in British college. He became an optometrist. He's a doctor by trade in the British colleges. So they thought that they had a man that didn't know much about military. That's why they started ISIS up in there. They thought they didn't have a man that knew much about the economy. That's why they started sanctioning the Syrian economy. They thought they had a man who didn't have the testicular fortitude or the bravery to stand up for his people and buck up against the West. And they are quickly finding out something different. Listen to this. So I want you to read along with me, okay? It says, Syria turned down an offer from the U.S. to withdraw their forces from Al-Tanf, a U.S. base in the southeast and the East Euphrates zone, in exchange for, listen to this, for 3 concessions from the Assad government, according to a report from Lebanese daily Al-Akhbar. Officials of several U.S. intelligence and security agencies reportedly landed in a private UAE plane at Damascus International Airport in late June. They then took off in a convoy towards the center of Damascus for a meeting with the head of Syria's National Security Office, Major General Ali Mamluk. The meeting reportedly lasted for 4 hours. The sides discussed multiple aspects of the 7-year war in the country before the Americans made their offer. A withdrawal of its troops from Al-Tanf, and I'll see you later. Have a good night. Call me when you get in, okay? That's my wife. She's leaving for work right now. Hard working later. I'm sorry, everybody, but I had to tell her good night. Anyway, a withdrawal of its troops from Al-Tanf and the East Euphrates on 3 conditions. Look at these 3 conditions, including a complete Iranian withdrawal, a share in Syria's oil spoils, and intelligence on terrorists. You see it? So did I lie to you all? When I gave you this information on the show, did I lie to any of you all? I told you they were trying to extort the government of Syria. And when Assad stood up and had this testicular fortitude to say, no, the land, what's in it, what's under it, and what's around it is ours. And we may have to deal with you for a few years, but eventually you'll become overstretched, overbearing, and broken because of the debt situation, because of you alienating everybody, because of your constant waging of wars and destabilization programs. All of that costs money. So Assad weighed the risk and said, we can wait it out. Because America is weak, and she's getting weaker by the day. And the global South continues to grow in strength and influence. You understand? I told you this, and it's in an article now. Told you. So let me go in the chat real quick because I don't want to ignore anybody. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Medi says. Let me highlight this. Let me go here. I'm checking some. If I pass over your comments, it's not intentionally. Okay. It's like some of the first ones I see, and I'll try to go back up about this. Hold on one second. Where is it? It just disappeared. Medi, I was getting ready to highlight your clip on your words. Oh, here it is. Here it is. All right. Medi says, there are people I respect stating and repeating that the hospital wasn't bombed at all. It was the parking lot. Hamas must have blew it up. What the F? But see, again, you know why they do that? Because they live, when it comes to Israel, they live in the land of delusion. If I acknowledge this horrific thing and I acknowledge it publicly that Israel did it, then I might have to be fairer in my judgment towards Palestine and Israel. And this is something that I'm not prepared to do. This is what's in their mind. I can't acknowledge it because I can't fathom that Israel would do that, even though they do stuff like that on a daily basis. But in the psyche of the West, it is blasphemous to question Israel. It is blasphemous to question their policies and their actions. So if I do this, I'm going to alienate a lot of my subscribers. I'm going to alienate a lot of my connections, so I won't get all the good interviews with all of these other people. I'm going to alienate my money, the people that help me with my money stream. So, but I have to somehow acknowledge it. So what I'll do, I'll tiptoe around it so people won't say that I didn't acknowledge it. But I won't lay blame squarely on Israel, because if I lay blame on them, then I'm acknowledging that they committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, and they must be brought to justice. And that is not acceptable in the West. The only thing that is acceptable is that the Muslims, like they say, the Muslims are terrorists. The Muslims blow up stuff. The Muslims purposely kill such and such. They don't say Muslims. They say Muslims, even though the word is Muslim. So this is what they say. And that sometimes is too much for their psyche. Okay? So, Medi, I'm glad you put that up there. Oh, here we go. You also said this. How many times has Israel changed the story about the hospital issue? Medi, I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you. You don't have to tell me on that one. And Cece says, exactly. They admitted it. That's right. They admitted it. And then they went back on the story and said it was Islamic Jihad. And then they, out of the blue, they come up with this rough recording, and not no intelligence service in the world believed it. When they came out with it, Z and Putin laughed. I'm not lying. They laughed at it. It was such a fraudulent, badly put together so-called vindication of Israel that the leaders of the BRICS laughed at it and then followed that up with condemnation on Israel. If you think I'm lying, go Google it. I'm just telling you. Let's see. CC say millions. Yeah. Millions of Muslims protested their government at midnight. Let me tell you something about the West. Sisi brought up something that I got to get off my chest about the West and about Muslims, right? This is what's crazy. America thinks that self-defense is the prerogative solely for her, Europe, and her allies. They think that that is on. Think about this. I want you to think about the mind of the West, about America, okay? She is openly pumping money, resources, manpower, weapons, missiles, bullets, and everything else into Ukraine. And she openly states this. And Ukraine is not a NATO member. She is constantly waging war across the Middle East and North Africa and arming people who she deems her allies. Iran says that Hezbollah is their ally. How dare you arm Hezbollah? That's our red line. Don't you send them any missiles. How dare you arm Hamas while America is arming Israel to the tune of between $5 and $15 billion a year. That's what they acknowledge, but it's way more than that. While America is arming Ukraine with $200 billion plus in money and arms. While America is arming Taiwan, a Chinese province, to become a renegade against mainland China. How dare China try to bring peace to the Middle East? How dare Russia send Su-35s to Iran? How dare you? That is a red line that we won't take. All while NATO and the U.S. continue to pour money, weapons, and arms into everybody that they deem are puppets or allies of them. That exceptionalism. When I do it, it's justifiable. We're fighting for freedom. When you do it, it's terrorists and terrorism. You understand? America can give everybody bombs, missiles, just like she gave those attacker missiles to Nazis in Ukraine. But don't you give Iran one missile, one radar, one cinnamon roll, because that is unacceptable and violates international law. What America wants you to do, she wants to arm herself and arm her allies and her minions to the teeth and prevent you from arming yourself so that you can be at the whims of their wishes. So that you can be unarmed, therefore you can't really resist them economically, you can't really resist them culturally, you can't really resist them politically, and you cannot resist them militarily if you don't have the wherewithal to fight back. So she wants you unarmed against her, while arming everybody else against you. It does the world good that I'm not the leader of a nation. Because a lot of this foolishness that goes on in international politics will cease to be if I was. I'm telling you this. Let's see. And Holly Horn says, like the lies they were saying about beheading babies, how that was debunked. Yeah. And remember, we were telling you this on this show when they was talking about the people were killed at the festival, and now it's coming out that what we said was right. That the people that were killed at the festival, and Scott Ritter let the cat out the bag yesterday. He said Israel started burying the bodies real quick. He would hope that they would have an autopsy on it, because some people are saying that the vast majority of the people who were killed by Israeli gunfire. Israeli gunfire. And he said it would be easily to verify and distinguish because AK-47s leave a distinct mark that is different from an M16 or another weapon that Israel forces may use. So all one has to do is do an autopsy on the body and you'll see who killed who. And the IDF panicked and they were using the public as a shield, so Hamas returned fire through the crowd because the IDF was firing through the crowd, and they leave out that convenient fact. They leave that out. Let's see. Flying Crocodile says this. Muslims protesting the events need to protest with their fiend mouths shut, as all they are doing is making all Muslims look like violent extremists. No, you have to, if they're protesting it in the West, I mean, they have the right to protest in the East. The problem, the thing I was getting to is this, when I was talking about how America likes to arm everybody, and the problem that I have with Muslims, and I don't advocate violence in no way, shape, form, or fashion, is this: they will see their brother being brutalized, victimized, and they'll stay there. They'll offer vocal support, but never the support that is really needed, which is the military support. Now let's do a 180. America offered vocal support to Israel, followed up by what? Financial support, right? What followed that? Military support. America is deploying 2,000 plus troops there, plus she has 2 aircraft carrier groups there. These Muslims that are feigning to support the Palestinian cause, what have they offered in the way of financial support, political support, and military manpower? Huh? The only one that openly stated that if this thing continues to go along the line that it's going, then we will intervene is Iran. This forced the other nations like Jordan to start talking about this is unacceptable, and Egypt to start talking about this is unacceptable. But what have they done in the way of their responsibility to help defend what they call a sovereign nation? If they believe Palestine is sovereign, why won't they help them? The U.S. is helping Israel, her open ally. You say the Palestinians are your open ally. Why the hell aren't you helping the Palestinians? See, I call an ace and a spade a spade. And a lot of people don't like this because they don't like when truth comes to their face, because when that mirror shines and you see the reflection of you and it's not as beautiful as you thought, you turn that mirror away because you can't stand to look at that. Okay? Now, let's go a little further. Holly Horn. Flying Crocodile says, Holly Horn, correct. We need to wait for evidence before condemning. Peace message must come first. Well, Flying Crocodile, I understand you, and I don't know what is this referring to, but if it's referring to the hospital, look, Russia has some of the best space assets in the world. China has some of the best space assets in the world. Iran has new satellites that both cross over that area at the same time. All 3 of those nations are condemning the strike and laying the blame squarely on Israel. They are not doing that out of ignorance. They too have intelligence services. They too have people that report to the president of their nations, giving them the intel that they've acquired. So if they are saying it, guess what? And the West is coming up with different stories, and Israel has changed her story on multiple occasions about this. What do they tell you if you are being interrogated by the police? You've seen this on all kind of shows. If your story changes, what happens? You become more guilty looking, right? If your story continues to morph, you become a prime suspect, right? And if your story morphs so much that it no longer makes sense, what happens? They then have enough probable cause to do what? Charge you with being not just an accessory to the violence, but being the main instigator of the violence. And that's all I'm saying. Use these things that we use every day. This is not exclusive to other stuff. This is common sense. So, yeah, Holly Horn says, and check Article 4 too. Yeah. CC says USA used Israel to jumpstart wars. This was done with World War I and II. Yeah, I think that's what it is. World War I and II. Yeah. Let's see. Turkey is not fully thumbing his nose up at the United States. They're in the crossroads. They're going to have to pick a side soon. And their economic, political, and really military interests and sovereignty lies with the West. Lies with the East and the global South. And you know what? As the wealth continues to transfer to the East, it's going to exacerbate that. And most people follow their national interests. Most people follow their political interests, and more than anything, they follow their economic interests. Right? You understand what I'm saying? See, Turkey can't just pick Turkey up and move it in Europe. Europe don't even want Turkey. Turkey has been trying to become a European Union member since the inception of the European Union. The United States continue to browbeat Turkey every time they step up for their own national interests. But the welcoming of Turkey into as an observer of the SCO, as an observer to the BRICS Plus, right? This in itself is coaxing Turkey into its move towards the east. All right? I'm telling you this stuff now. Watch. Let's see, the IDF MK-84 into the building that is made to penetrate down to the lowest floors before exploding. No matter what high value Hamas target is there, you do not kill women, children to get them. Boom, I'm gonna put this on the screen. Right there. Read that, everybody. Silence for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Read that. Glad you read it. Now let's go to here. U.S. Congress won't even sell Turkey their older F-16s. If I was Turkey, I wouldn't take them. China would be willing to sell Turkey the J-10 C version, which are way better than the F-15 and the F-16. And in mock battle, they had a ratio kill that was unbelievable against the West. Go look it up. They hide this. The J-10, the new version, I think it's the block. The J-10B, C, that's the block 3 or something. Beat the Gripen, the Swedish Gripen, the French Rafale, the European, what is it called? What is the warplane that the Tornado? Is that the Tornado that the UK and somebody else used? And they beat the F-15s and the F-16s in head-to-head battles. I'm telling you this now. China would be willing to. And the new block 3 J-17s, they infuse technology from the J-10 and the F-16s. So, you have options. Russia's willing to sell you MiG-29s, MiG-30s, I think, Su-30s, Su-27s upgraded, Su-35, Su-34s. All of these are better analogs than their Western counterparts. Why would you take an out-of-date, you can only upgrade a plane so long until it has no value, because these planes are moving into 5th and 6th generation, and in reality, the F-16 is like a 1st or 2nd generation. That's real. I'm not saying it's not a good plane now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking that. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm dealing with reality here. I'm not saying that the F-16 could not do damage. The F-16 is totally garbage. I'm not saying that. But the F-35 is partly garbage. You can believe that. Let's see. Holly Horns, I'm gonna put this up there. Holly Horn says, I believe the missile that hit the hospital was an MK-84. Let's see. Right, here we go. Clever weapons use can make it harder to tell what type of weapons are used. Forensic evidence is preferred. Right. And that's how Russia and China and Iran comes up with their conclusion. They use forensic evidence. They have people that all they do is discern satellite imagery and try to figure out this, this, and this. The United States has the same thing. And this is how they come up with war plans. This is how they can tell a person, well, no, we thought they were weak over here, but we saw some anomalies over here, and this, and this led us to believe this, this, and this. So they do. Forensic is not just on a table dealing with dead bodies. They have space forensics. Okay? They have aerial forensic. They have underwater forensics. So it's not just dealing with what you see on CSI. You understand? It's not just dealing with that. Let's see. Let me go. Let's see. CC said, what is life? Let me see. Let me see if I'm reading that right. Harvard students having job offers rescinded now. These Harvard students should feel like the black community settled with degrees, but no job offers or overlooked for discrimination reasons. Now I'm gonna address something right there, and it's not gonna be what some black people want to hear. Okay, you know I call it down the pipe. I gotta tell it like it is. Now, let me put that back up there. See, I don't care. I'm gonna call it down the pipe. So black people don't think hard of me. Just think your brother loves you. So I'm gonna tell you a hard fact that you need to come to grips with. Okay? If you go to school and you go to, say for instance, you go to college and you go all these years and you become an architect. You go and become an engineer, right? Why is it on the back of the college or the government to give you a job? That degree states that you are qualified in that field. Go and build one for yourself. Show them the God in you. Bring that qualification out of you so that you don't have to rely on them. You understand? And what is the use of getting the degree if you have to go back to the university or people that you're pointing the fingers to, saying that they won't employ you? The degree says that you have skills in that area and you've mastered those skills. So take your mastery, and you may not start off in the first 5 years being $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 this. You may start off at the bottom working 2 jobs to get the funding to do what you're trying to do. But everything is a journey. So what you do, you take what you have. You take what's around you. You take that knowledge that you've acquired and then you produce something with it. That's mathematics. Take your multiply times your multiplicand and come up with a product. And that way, if they don't give you a job, you won't be mad. You won't be outraged. You'll be able to show them I had the God so much within myself. And I tapped that God spirit in me and made for myself what you wouldn't give to me. You understand? It's time for that. It's time for that. Because when we want something bad enough, guess what we do? If we want to go out on the weekends, guess what we do? We go work a job, or we go do this, and we go get those shoes, those Nike shoes. We go get that outfit. We go get, because that's what you wanted. If you really want that, you may not start off at the top. You might have to go pick cans, sell bottles, work an extra job to get the finances put to the side. And once you get enough financing, find somebody like-minded and say, listen, I got the skills. If you got a little money, we can go in and do this, and I can bring out the learning that I've acquired into real time. That is what God is, to take what's in your mind and bring it into reality. Show them that you have the God in you and not have to rely on other people. Let's go further. Let's see. There was let me put Medi up there. Channel member has to be highlighted. There was a time when the honor of a warrior would not have even considered to make a strike with women and kids present. Honor in the West does not exist. Mic drop moment. Hey, it's such a mic drop moment. Watch this. We dropped the mic over here. We just dropped the mic over here. All right. That's how much of a mic drop moment that was. All right. Now let's see. Show me the proof. Show me. Yup. I see you flying, Crocodile. Let's see. Mr. Stone is 100% right. Medi, let's see. I have no clue. I ain't even. God, we're here having a discussion, and I didn't even know that an hour and 7 minutes was gone. I didn't even know that. Let's see. U.S. seeks to dominate the resources of a country, not of a country, of all countries. What did Hillary Clinton say about Russia? It's not fair for Russia to be that big and have that many resources. We need to balkanize Russia and take the resources. That's Hillary Clinton. Man, I'm telling you, these people are sociopaths. They're sociopaths. Let's see. Now let me go real quick and play this other clip, okay? The short clip while we're on this subject. Pay close attention to this. This is 4 minutes. Pay close attention to this.
With Greece set to hold a second parliamentary election in June, following the last polls at the end of May, one party, the Democratic National...
Real quick, in preface, this is an old clip, but it has relevance right now. And this clip is talking about how the Ukraine crisis was triggered by NATO. Everywhere the U.S. and NATO goes, death and pestilence follows, right? One of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? I want you to listen.
While the U.S. insists it has no direct involvement in the Ukraine conflict, the Prime Minister of Georgia has blamed NATO expansionism for the situation, saying it triggered an escalation in the standoff.
I think everybody knows the reason.
I'm not sure I do. What do you think it is?
I think you know it well, and the audience knows it. One of the main reasons was NATO, right? NATO enlargement, right? And many other reasons.
You think that NATO enlargement provoked the war?
Well, I don't want to speculate, okay? And I don't want to quote the statements of the Russian government. But one of the reasons was Ukraine's will and determination to become a member of NATO. So therefore, we see the consequence.
Despite a long history of tensions with Russia over territorial disputes, the two countries recently resumed direct flights after a long pause and sealed a visa-free travel agreement. That provoked an angry response from the West, with the EU and US having already been critical of Tbilisi for not joining sanctions against Moscow. Ukraine, meanwhile, has lashed out at the comments of the Georgian PM.
It is very disappointing for Ukraine now to hear such messages. We are very sorry for Georgia, which is now in a situation where top government officials can make such statements.
We spoke to a former Georgian MP who says NATO acts in accordance with its own agenda, expanding its territory at the expense of global harmony.
Grubashvili was absolutely right, because we all know that the war in Ukraine, behind it was the desire of NATO to expand the territory at the expense of Ukraine. To be honest, the same thing happened in 2008 in Georgia. We all know that NATO expansion is unacceptable to Russia. That is, if the neighbors do not understand the depth of their neighbor's security system, then one should not expect other results from the neighbor, because neighbors should be treated with greater understanding. Georgia had shared security with Russia. The same thing happened with Ukraine. NATO's approach to Russia's borders, everyone knows all over the world that this was absolutely unacceptable for Russia. To move forward further and further, everyone understood how this would end. Interest in the war with Russia was naturally modeled by the West. Therefore, the Prime Minister spoke briefly, but to the point.
Now I want to play this other clip too that I was going to play. That was 2 minutes. I thought it was 4 minutes, but it's a 2 minute and 46-second clip. This is the 4-minute clip that goes hand in hand with what you say, what you just heard, and we see how America and NATO keeps provoking this stuff. Okay, and we'll get to a comment about China in just a minute, but I just want to get this out of the way because we were talking along these lines. Okay, so here we go. Pay close attention to this one.
With Greece set to hold a second parliamentary election in June, following the last polls at the end of May, one party, the Democratic National Liberation Movement, or DKEA, is calling for an independent Greece which decides its own national future, in contrast to the EU states. DKEA party was established earlier this year in opposition to the current Greek government's course. Its stated goals are to strive for Greek unity and independence and an exit from the EU and NATO. It's also calling for resistance to Western hegemony, which, according to its leader, is destroying the country. The party founder and ex-Energy and Environment Minister, Panagiotis Lafazanis, says that Greece should reject Western influence and strive for closer ties with Russia.
The parties that will enter Parliament have approximately the same political position, especially these three parties, New Democracy, Syriza and Kinal, Movement of Change. Their political positions are almost identical. All three parties are products of the Western centres, Brussels, Berlin and Washington. They unquestioningly follow Western politics in a very subservient way. What the West says is the law for these parties. Greece has become a protectorate. Greece has passed into the hands of the oligarchy and its economy is literally sold out to transnational centres. And it's this Greece that matters because whichever of these parties forms the government, the political position will be the same. An equally reactionary, anti-people, anti-social and servile political position. First and foremost, our party, the Democratic National Liberation Movement, or DKEA for short, is against the protectorate status imposed on our country, against our country's dependence and its transformation into a kind of colony of Brussels, Berlin and Washington. We want an independent Greece, a Greece which will actually decide its own national and social future. For us, this is the main issue. The second issue that disguises us is our clear and precise position regarding the war in Ukraine. We say that Russia is right in this war. Russia did not cause this war. On the contrary, the war was waged by the United States, NATO and the Ukrainian Nazi regime. They caused this war, they are aggravating it, and they are leading Ukraine, Europe and the whole world into the abyss. Unfortunately, this unanimity that exists regarding the condemnation of Russia is literally destructive for Greece, for our region and, of course, for Europe and the whole world. This unanimity regarding Russia leads our country into even bigger dependence, carries even greater threats to our security and our survival, because Greece has now turned into a base for a big Western campaign against Russia. From the American bases located in Greece, troops and weapons systems are launched against Russia and are sent to Ukraine and neighbouring countries. For us, this is unacceptable. This puts Greece at great risk. We want Greece to be independent, to strive for very close, friendly cooperation with Russia, with which we have absolutely no disagreements. DKEA is the only party that says Russia is right. Russia is not the aggressor. Russia cannot be isolated. And vice versa, Russia should be helped in dialogue with Ukraine in order to find a fair, peaceful solution based on realistic positions. None of the mass media in Greece show our position. It does not give us the opportunity to speak to the Greek public. This shows that there is no democracy in Greece. On the contrary, there's a dictatorship, because democracy means that the voice that is different is also heard. NATO wants to escalate the war in Ukraine to an extreme form. I think that we are at the beginning of this war, its expansion and not the end of it. There is no benefit for Greece in supporting NATO in this war of aggression in Ukraine or in helping make this war more intense. Today, Russia is not at war with Ukraine, but at war with the entire West. For the first time in history, one country is opposed to almost everything the so-called that developed world. I'm talking about governments, of course, not people. Greece must say one big no to NATO, must say that it will not follow the sanctions imposed on Russia because they are illegal, unfair and unfavourable for our nation and our national path. Greece must stop sending weapons to Ukraine, which escalates the war, and all this needs to be done right now. This is our position, and it should be the position of Greece. Greece today can play a positive role in stopping the evil that's happening now in Ukraine. This should be the mission of our country, rather than being a colony and a pawn of NATO, America, Brussels, Germany, and of course, in this dirty war.
So we see that America is behind the war. We knew that. We knew as much. We see that she continues to be unhinged. And I was reading some of the comments in there while the video was going on. Let's get to some of them in just a second. Let's see. Yeah, Naeem88 is in the building. Shout out. I saw you too. And I heard you say, I read your comment about you didn't know that Hillary Clinton said that. Yes, she said that. She said it in an open interview. And had I seen your comment earlier, I probably would have pulled it up for you real quick. Let's see if I can find it real quick. You know they scrubbed the search engines and stuff. Be broken up. Let's see. Let me see if is that it? That's the. I don't think it was in the Guardian. So I don't think it was there. I can find it for you. But it seemed like they continue to scrub the internet of anything that that shows the true side of these killers. Let's see. See some. What is that? Anyway, so much news is breaking off. We're not getting off the air yet. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see something real quick. Is that it? I don't think this is it. But in a setting like this, let me pull this up for you real quick. In a setting like this, let's see, stop screen. In a setting similar to this, and maybe I'll get a chance to go over and look at this. Let's see if it'll pop up on the screen. Do you see the top? Let me see. Do you see that top video up there? It was in a setting similar to that when she was being questioned. And she was talking about that it's unfair that Russia was so big, had so much land, and had all of these resources to herself. And this should not be the case, and that Russia should be balkanized so that they could share the resources with the rest of the world. Hillary Clinton said that. This shows you, and remember, Hillary Clinton is from that that clan, I believe, the Polish. I think she's originally from over in Poland, or that area over there. She's from that gangster clan, the Rahams, right? She's from that clan there. They're ruthless now, so don't you ever forget that. They are ruthless. So don't let her fool you with all that crazy, trying to talk all with sense and trying to be calm in front of the camera. No. She didn't get to where she's at by not taking people out. As a matter of fact, there was these write-ups about the Clintons, and they showed all the people, excuse me, that were friends with the Clintons, that worked in the Clinton administrations, that helped the Clintons, and they showed how there was a trail of death and suicide, quote unquote, suicide, and all of these mishaps and accidents to these people who served and who knew certain things that was detrimental to the Clintons. Okay, go Google this stuff. It may still be up on some areas. All right, it's there. Let's see. Let me go back to the chat. Okay. Give me a second. It seems like YouTube don't want me to keep up with you guys. See, let's see. Come on, YouTube. All right. Let's see. Holly Horn says peace. let's see. Says Zionist children are innocent too. That's for another discussion, okay? That right there, I'm not saying, and I keep telling you, I don't advocate violence. I'm not an advocate of violence. I am for self-defense. I'm not offensive minded when it comes to, I believe that a lot of this stuff can be, if people climb down off their high horses and get all of that arrogance and I'm better than you out of them, which is a hard thing to do because it's ingrained in them, then a lot of violence and a lot of conflicts can be settled peacefully and fairly. But again, when a person shows you who they are, what are you supposed to do? Believe them, okay? That's what you're supposed to do. Believe them. Let's see. I'm trying to. This thing is jumping. Just him videos with a message. PM. Let it be. Amen. Yeah. Let's see. Right here, let me put this up there before it dips on me. Israeli idea of defense radars and sensors would be able to detect the launch because that is what it is looking for, to give the most time for response, not when it is already on its trajectory. Okay. Walaikum salam. Naeem 88. Let's see. Let's see. Europe. It said, okay, MZ is in the building. I didn't even see you. MZ is in the building, and he says Europe does not want the Jews to go back either. and that's true. That's true. But if we look at this fair and just, and I'm not advocating the extermination or the removal of people by force. I'm just saying, if we look at this fair, if the Germans were the ones that tortured these people, if the Germans were the one who gassed these people, if the Germans were the one who experimented on these people, if the Germans were the ones who brutalized these people and committed atrocities, war crimes, and crimes against humanity against these people, why should the Palestinians pay the price and the brunt of what the Germans did? Because prior to 47, 48, that land was Palestine. That's all I'm getting across. I mean, you have no argument with me. I'm just dealing with facts and history. And if this is the case, then why isn't anybody when they talk about a two-state solution, everybody should be for it. But they should be saying, hey, listen, if we are talking about right and just acts, if you are truly an advocate of Jesus Christ or Prophet Muhammad or any of the worthy men of God, justice would dictate that they would be taken to Germany, and Germany would carve out a territory for them, because Germany is responsible for the mistreatment, the brutality, and the viciousness against those people. It wasn't the Palestinians. The Palestinians opened them, let them come with open arms. And then they committed genocide against the very people who welcomed them in their lands and in their homes with open arms. This is not something I'm making up. Scott Ritter did a very, very good piece on this on a show from yesterday and a show from 2 days or 3 days ago. He did a very good show, and he went into the history of what was going on in Palestine and how Palestine changed over to Israel. Did a very good job. Let's see. All right. Here it is. Flying Crocodile, you say JTN not proven in real combat against anyone's planes, but sure looks good. A copy of the proven suit, I believe. No, it's wrong. The J10s, and I have I have a few contacts that told me that the J-10s are the real deal, and they confronted on several occasions in the South China Sea, popped out of nowhere and confronted the U.S.'s F-15s, F-18s, F-16s, and at one point, I believe it was an F-35, if I'm not mistaken. And they are real good, and they are not a copy of a suit, they are the real deal. They are the real deal. I'm telling you from some U.S. sources. I'm not talking about Chinese sources. I'm not talking about Eastern sources, even though I have a few of those that can tell you. But I'm talking about some legitimate and people in the know about this. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Let's scroll down. Diane O'Neill. Shout out to Diane O'Neill in the chat. Thank you for joining us. And everybody, please hit the like button and subscribe. They continue to unsubscribe people. When we did the show the other day, and I was telling you about every time I get 80 or 90 subscribers, they come back and take 90%. Well, right after the show, I showed family members, I said, before the show, I showed them the subscriber count. 15 minutes after the show, I showed them the subscriber account. All right. And then now this is also happening to me on Rumble. I looked and Rumble was showing me that I had X amount of people subscribing these days. And yet today, it was some of them were taken away, even though it showed that they were subscribing. So it is what it is. And that's what we have to deal with. No need to get mad or angry. These are their platforms. This is what they do. We'll use them until we can't use them anymore, and we'll try to do what we do. We're not going to cry. We're not going to beg. We're not going to do none of that. We're going to keep focusing on trying to get the truth out to people. Whether it's one person or whether it's 1,000 people or whether it's 100,000 people, because that's the main issue. It's not about me. It's not about a certain individual. It's about truth to the masses of the people so that it can benefit them in a way that can have them progress in life and also secure the safety of their lives and their families' lives. Okay. Let's see. Let me go here. Yeah, I see a lot of this stuff. But let me go to the let's look what's in the news. Let's see what's in the news real quick. Biden says U.S. will forever stand with Israel. Right? Why? Now listen to me good. I have brothers and sisters, and I'm going to stand with my brothers and sisters in public because we're blood. But if they are wrong behind closed doors, I'm going to chew them out and say, listen, you're wrong. You're wrong as hell. And you should not have done that, and you should not be doing this. And listen, and since it's done, what are you going to do now so that we don't revisit this moment? Because if you don't make any move towards rectifying the wrong, guess what happens? You get ensnared in the wrong and you continue to do wrong over and over and over again. And that's what's happening to the majority of the people here in America domestically. And that's what's happening to the majority of the people around the world. Because they're not rectifying the wrong. They don't want to hear common sense. They don't want to hear what's beneficial to them. They want to hear, hey, you're good, you're great, this and this, and you're beautiful, you're strong, you're fine, you're sexy, you're intelligent, you're this. They don't want people to tell them, hey, you know, you just acted like an idiot. Do you know you put so many people's lives at stake over here? Do you know that this is wrong? Do you know that this could have happened, blah, blah? They don't want that because of the egos of the people today. The egos, I'm telling you. They don't want that. Oh, man, I'm telling you, it is something else. It is something else. But it is real. So, listen, I saw Rashid try to get in the building. But Rashid, brother, we about to close out. Because I have some things, previous thing I have to do. But I want each and every one of you all, listen, to share. He says he's here. Hold on one second. All right, I'm sorry, everybody. So he's in, so I'll give him a second in the building because I have a few things I have to do, so I'm gonna bring him in for just a second, and then we're gonna close out just like I told you guys because, man, I've been on here for over an hour and 30 minutes, and I gotta go handle some personal stuff. So let me bring him in real quick. How you doing today? I know what they were doing to you. I got your message. I know what they were doing. I got your messages each time you text me. That's why I was hitting you back. I was looking down and I was hitting you back. It's a shame what they do to this show, man. For the people who are listening to you, Rashid, what do you have to say in closing? I hate that we're about to go off there, but what do you have to say to them in closing, especially about this situation that is starting to bubble over into what we often say a meaner war? What do you have to say to the people?
It's long in coming. I mean, you hear these leaders of the East. It's a shame how they killing the Palestinians. Well, what you doing about it?
That's my point.
I mean, they say they following Prophet Muhammad. They are the lineage of Prophet Muhammad. What would Prophet Muhammad say if there was a group of Muslims over there being killed? Do you think he would sit on his butt and say, "What a shame"? I think I'll go to this Christian organization called the UN and ask them, can you help me do something against your brother who's killing other Muslims? It don't make sense. It sounds unreal. Like he says in the bizarro world, upside down. You should stand up and do something. Don't sit up there and tell me what is a shame. As we done said many times, the UN was created and designed for the Western world to rule the planet. Now, why would the Western world do anything to help non-Western countries or land? I mean, the United States got their land the same way the Israelis got theirs. Went in, stole people's land and killed them all. So you shouldn't be, well, I'm shocked that America is allowing this. Well, how do you think they got America? I'm shocked that Canada won't say nothing. Well, how do you think you got Canada?
On that note, I was just talking about that earlier. But on that note, everybody, thank you all for joining us on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, anywhere on social media. Check us out tomorrow as we come to you live and in color with the most powerful thoughts, theories, and a deep dive into what's going on the world stage. Know that we love you if you love truth, but know that our love will pale in comparison to the love that the divine supreme being has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. We're out.